Okay. Well, we'll sit. Folks, there's a little gift giving going on here on the stage, which is the perfect opportunity for me to remind you that this is actually a benefit concert. And I want to report that you have raised $24,700 for all the efforts that you're about to hear about. But I think we can do better, okay? So there are QR codes on the signs there. It makes it really easy to make a gift. And when you hear from Ella and Ramona, I think and others, why that's so important.
Thanks, Peter. And so right now in the audience, we're really honored to have 4 Indigenous leaders of land return with us tonight. And we hope that you all will come up and share a bit about your work and be able to promote it. The first person that I want to introduce is Ramona Peters, who I've had the honor of getting to know the past few days. Ramona is Mashpee Wampanoag and the daughter of Slow Turtle, John Peters. She is a lifelong activist, artist, and she's founder of the Native Land Conservancy. And Ramona, I invite you to come share.
Lay it down so it doesn't slam. Yes, good evening, everyone. I want to get a little wave to say hello. If you would say hello back so I can, even my ancestors can feel you. Well, we come from Cape Cod. My tribe is small. We're first contact people. The Mayflower landed in our territory, about 12 miles from my village, where we still live. We've been on Cape Cod for it's been proven we've been there for about 12,000 years. When I was growing up, I heard the older people always talking about the land, and not so much the land that we had, but the land that was lost to us. And some of those spaces are very sacred and special to us, and it's sort of like missing a relative, an important relative that had so much teaching in it and so much history in it. The things that happen on those land spaces. So many of those places we can't go anymore because someone else is owning it or holding it. So now the Native Land Conservancy is not only asking for land to return so that our people can practice our cultural lifeways, but also simple access to special areas so we can give greetings and thanks to those energies and elements and things that are there, that our people always used to give offerings to. We would like access, and some of the towns and conservation groups are opening that possibility to us. So where it's a very formal, we're calling it a cultural respect agreement or cultural respect easement. And for people, private landowners and towns or conservation groups who feel that they can respect our culture enough to allow us to enter safely. Well, they're doing it little by little. So we've been up north here and over in Maine with the Wabanaki Confederacy, talking with them about the same process. And some friends in the conservation world are opening spaces for Native people, Indigenous people to do just what I'm talking about. Yes, this land still loves us, and we just want to love it back, more directly. Yeah. So, there's a lot we could talk about with what the Native Land Conservancy does, but I just want to say, just invite you to look at our website. I guess would be the easiest thing to do, nativelandconservancy.org, right? And drop us an email. We really enjoy your company in this very, very special place. And talk about the land loving back. This is, I don't know. I'm almost speechless about what to say. I don't know an English word to say about that one. But Peter, thank you so much. Helen. Ren.
Thank you so much, Ramona. Next up is Stephanie. Stephanie's of the Oneida Nation. They're an herbalist, an earth worker, and coordinator of the Northeast Farmers of Color Land Trust. Welcome, Stephanie.
Yeah, actually I'm Mohawk Ganigehaga. My grandfather was Oneida, but Sego Sewagoigo, everybody. My name is Stephanie Morningstar. I'm Mohawk Turtle Clan from Treaty 3 Dish with One Spoon territory, and standing next to me is my beloved colleague Kenya Lazuli, who lives here in Vermont. So much gratitude to Peter, Helen, the whole Knoll family. Gratitude so much to Lula Wiles. It was so fun and beautiful to watch you, and I'm excited for the second half. Gratitude to the ancestors and to the land. Gratitude to all of you for coming here and supporting this work and listening to the land and your ancestors. And deep bow to our dear elder and inspiration, Ramona Peters, as well as our siblings at the Bomazeen Land Trust, Native Land Conservancy, and the Wabanaki Commission on Land Stewardship. The Northeast Farmers of Color Land Trust is a concentric land liberation alliance whose vision is to advance land sovereignty in the Northeast region with and for Indigenous, Black, Latinx, Asian, and other land stewards, earth workers, and farmers of color who are dedicated to tending the land in a sacred manner that honors our ancestors' dreams and instructions for responsible and reciprocal farming, sustainable and beautiful human habitat, continuation, reintegration, and reclamation of ceremony, and restoration of native species ecosystems and cultural celebration. We are on the cusp of a tipping point. 98% of farmland is owned by white folks, nearly 100% in the Northeast. As my mentor and dear friend Leah Penniman says, this is not an accident of history. We are on the cusp of a tipping point. The Earth's biodiversity could reach this tipping point by 2045. The collapse of our ecosystems are looming. We are on the cusp of a tipping point. People of color are 2 times more likely to die from a chronic health condition, often due to ethnostress, including stressors such as food apartheid. There are 3 rich white billionaires who would rather leave the planet than redistribute their wealth to fix this. We are at a tipping point. We've survived 2.5 years of land liberation, speaking truth to power, and amending the soil of the systems that control the health and well-being of those who have been pushed to the settler colonial margins, those who have extracted from and cut off from our languages, cultures, and land. Here at the Northeast Farmers of Color, we're here to say that we walk in the path of gratitude and stand on the shoulders of our collective ancestors who passed on their ways of being, doing, and knowing to us, who passed on their resilience and fierceness, tenderness of connection, and ability to listen deeply to creation. We're here to reclaim our place on and with the land, who never left us, who is our most sacred and precious relative. We do not see land as a resource, but instead a teacher, a nurturer, and provider. Kin we are not only a part of, but accountable to. One of the keystones of this work is not just the acknowledgement, but the actionable recognition that these lands were not terra nullius, but Turtle Island, and that the multiplicity of indigenous nations and languages and cosmologies that have been here and continue to be here since time immemorial. Because of this, we are dedicated to building deep partnerships with the sovereign indigenous nations of these territories. We have pledged not just to do this by consultation, but to advocate for the return and the rematriation of land relationships. We are not doing this in a vacuum. We are doing this together. We're building bridges and braiding bliss, Black liberation and indigenous sovereignty in solidarity. We're so grateful to be bridge builders, community regenerators, and here too, as it was so aptly and so beautifully put by these bardic truth tellers, we're here to turn on the lights that have been shot out. We're not just riding a wave of change, we're shaping change. I'll leave with you before introducing you briefly to Kenya to talk about what she's doing here in Vermont, our most recent family member. This poem by one of our beloved truth tellers, Octavia Butler. Here we are, energy, mass, life shaping life, mind shaping mind, God shaping God. Consider, we are born not with purpose, but with potential. All that you touch, you change. All that you change, changes you. The only lasting truth is change. God is change. It is my deep pleasure to introduce you to Kenny Lazuli to share with you a little bit about the Vermont Everytown Project. Nyawagoa.
It's a tough act to follow. Hi everyone, I'm Kenya Lazuli. I grew up in so-called Vermont and left for 25 years because I thought it was boring. And then when I got pregnant 7 years ago or 8 years ago, I thought, oh, I have to have my baby at home. And we thought we wouldn't stay, and here we are 7 years later. So my partner and I, we're both artists, so in order to survive in Vermont, we started an arts residency to invite other people to come and share this beautiful place with us. And what we noticed is that the people that could afford to come and share this beautiful space with us were white people who could leave their jobs and had funding and support coming from other places. So last year, a lot of things changed for a lot of people, and for us, that looked like no more hosting artists in our home. And then things kept changing and becoming more intense, and I started just being really aware of my privilege and really aware of where I get to live during a pandemic, and that I get to go outside when I'm tired of being inside. And I just sort of, was on a walk with a friend, and I was saying, wouldn't it be cool if there was like a space in every town in the state that was reserved and kept safe and like held for BIPOC? And she said, yeah, that would be cool. So I started writing emails and getting people on the phone that I didn't know, and I didn't really know what I was doing exactly, and I still am feeling it out. But one of the people I got in touch with was Stephanie Morningstar, and that was about a year ago. And since that time, I've started officially the Everytown Project. So the Everytown Project, like I just said, is a project with the primary goal of placing at least one quality piece of land from every town in this state in permanent trust for stewardship and access by Indigenous, Black, and people of color. 3 pieces of land have already started the donation process. We're connecting with land stewards all over the state through the Vermont Relief Collective. And about a month ago, I got hired by NEFOC officially, so I'm no longer volunteering at this job. And it's been, I'm an artist, like I said, so this is my first real job. I'm 42. So my mom is so happy that I have health insurance. I am too. But I guess like the most like just sort of amazing part of this past year was just being welcomed by the New Folk family and their gratitude for the work that I was called to do. And their naming of me being called to do this work, because I was like, I don't know where the idea came from, and Stephanie reminds me that, yes, I do. So I just want to say thank you to all of you for providing this beautiful space and inviting us here to share it with you, and thank you to the musicians for sharing your art with us, and thank you to the land. Yeah, and thank you, Peter. This is lovely. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Kenya, and thank you, Stephanie. That was beautiful. And lastly, but not least, I want to introduce two leaders from the Bomazeen Land Trust. Lakota Sanborn is a Penobscot Indigenous artist, community organizer, and board member of Bomazeen. And Molly Abomswin, who you've been hearing from throughout the night, is Odanak, a Beneki First Nation citizen. She's a writer, an activist, and a musician, as you all have seen. And she's also a leader of Bomazeen, so I'll welcome you guys up.
Thank you so much. I did not know that I would be talking like this about, neither of us did, so we don't have a speech. That was beautiful, though. Stephanie and Kenya, thank you for making it hard to follow you and how organized and eloquent you are. I don't typically mix my music, this, with the Indigenous advocacy work that I do, and it kind of scrambles my brain sometimes to do that. But I'm really so honored that this is a place where that is possible, and where the part of Lula Wiles that is dedicated to justice can have this platform to speak to a community of people who are also dedicated to justice in a very intentional way. And that is also the work of Bomazeen Land Trust. So Bomazeen Land Trust was officially founded last year, but was really a long time coming. And maybe I'll tell the history a little bit about why we formed the Land Trust. For years, my dad and my family have done a sacred ceremony at Mount Katahdin in Maine with the other Wabanaki nations, some of the other Wabanaki nations, Penobscot, Passamaquoddy, Maliseet, Mi'kmaq, and like Ella said, we're a Beneki from Odanak. And at the mountain, my family and other families, other Wabanaki families who do that ceremony would always talk about Norridgewock, this area in central Maine, western Maine, on the Kennebec River. Norridgewock was a historic community, a really important one within the context of Wabanaki homelands, because the Kennebec River is a huge watershed, and it connects to several very important rivers that we would travel in order to meet with our relatives down to Wampanoag, down to Shinnecock, up to New Brunswick, so-called. So really a crucial waterway. In our family, Bomazeen traces back to Chief Bomazeen, who was a part of that community at Norridgewock, and he was killed there in 1724 at a massacre that's called the Norridgewock Massacre, and that's when my family went to Odanak, which is in Quebec, if people don't know. It was started as a refugee community for Wabanaki people fleeing colonial warfare. So at the mountain, at Mount Katahdin, my family and other families who have similar stories that actually trace back to Norridgewock started having those conversations and finding each other in a really serendipitous but not consequential, coincidental, scramble brain, not coincidental way. And so the families continued to gather every year for several years, and we decided that it was time to do something to try to rematriate Norwich Walk, to try to start restore a presence there and protect the lands where our ancestors come from. For so long, all of these families have been in diaspora since that massacre and several others around the same time, and we would like to come home. We would like to come home from Quebec. We'd like to come home from Passamaquoddy, from Penobscot, from Mi'kma'ki, and Bombazine Land Trust was formed by descendants of those families who are in diaspora and who trace back to there, and we're dedicated to that, to restoring that presence. So that's what Bombazine Land Trust is up to. Thank you. Did I miss anything? Great. I'm going to introduce the person whose name you already know because she already said it, Lakota Sanborn.
Gwegwe, Bakwanagwaziak. It's so great to see you all here today, and I want to extend my deepest gratitudes to Peter Forbes for allowing this to take place, and for all of you who contributed to this fundraising venture. But I want to especially give my thanks to Ramona and to Stephanie and Kenya, and I feel it's really hard to follow up what you all said. It's very, very well put and very beautiful, and I feel like it rendered some of my words that I had thought up a little redundant. I don't want to speak for too long, but I just want to say that land back to Indigenous folks is really, it's more than just correcting past wrongs. It's really about looking forward into the future and what we're envisioning this world to be. When Ramona talked about us being in relation with the land and these really being relatives, and Molly touching on the diaspora that many of us have been forced to be a part of, it's really important that we have the ability to reconnect with our ancestors and with our relatives of the land and fulfill the sacred instructions that were passed down to us from Creator and by our ancestors to be protectors of these lands. It's not something I really need to go too much in depth on, but we all know that climate change is something that is not really a looming threat for us, at least for Indigenous peoples. Climate change is something that hasn't been looming on the horizon. It's something that has already arrived on our shores, and we are doing our best and using our best due diligence to reverse those tides to ensure that there is a future worth living for our relatives and our descendants in the future. And so when we started this project, it really has to do with reconnecting with the land in that way and to become familiarized with the people who we've been severed from the land itself. And I just feel really grateful to be where I am and to be doing the work that I'm doing and helping to ensure that the future doesn't look so bleak with climate change and that we're able to work together. So again, I want to say thank you. Kajiwaliwini. Yeah. Daho.
Just want to quickly say there have been 114 donations. We're over $25,000 raised. The evening goes on. Thank you so much for coming out. Thank you, Lula Wiles. Thank you, Ramona and Stephanie and Kenya, Molly and Lakota.